Millionaire CEO secretly saw her undressed, disguised himself to win her heart. Then she discovers, sleeps with him and gave him twins. My beautiful family, welcome back to another thrilling tale of love, here on our channel. I truly hope this video finds you well, smiling, and wrapped in joy. You know, my dear family, these tales I share with you aren't just videos, they're pieces of my soul. Every day, I spend 10 to 12 hours crafting these stories with deep love and care, rewriting scenes, fine-tuning emotions, staying up late into the night, because you deserve nothing but the very best. When you like, share, or leave those heartfelt comments, it lights a fire in me. Your words remind me that I'm not just creating content. I'm creating moments. Moments that matter. Moments that stay. That's why I always love to know where you're watching from. Especially if you're new here, welcome. You're now part of a family that spans across oceans and continents. So before we dive into today's story, go ahead and drop the name of your country in the comments. Let's celebrate how beautifully connected we are. Meet Jackson Reeves, the 38-year-old founder and CEO of Pinnacle Innovations, a tech empire valued at billions. Behind his tailored suits and magazine covers lies a man haunted by authenticity, tired of people who see only his wealth, not his worth. After discovering concerning reports about workplace discrimination in his company's Atlanta headquarters, Jackson conceives a bold plan. Rather than trust HR surveys or consultants, he'll go undercover as a night janitor to witness the truth firsthand, especially regarding a particular executive assistant named Zora Williams, whose exceptional work has been repeatedly overlooked for promotion. Have you ever wondered how differently people might treat you if they didn't know your status or position? When was the last time someone's true character was revealed to you only after your perception of them changed? Take a moment to reflect on how quickly we form judgments based on appearances alone. Family, if this story already resonates with you, make sure you tap that like button and subscribe to join our storytelling community. This tale of Jackson and Zora will challenge everything you think you know about workplace relationships, hidden identities, and finding love where you least expect it. Will Jackson's deception lead to disaster, or could this unconventional meeting of souls create something beautiful? Stay with me to find out how this millionaire's undercover mission becomes the journey that changes everything. Jackson Reeves stood before the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office, the late afternoon sunlight catching the silver threads in his closely cropped dark hair. At 6 feet 2 inches, he carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone who'd built something from nothing. His deep brown eyes, sharp and observant, missed little, a trait that had served him well as he built Pinnacle Innovations from a startup in his garage to an industry titan. Today, he wore a charcoal suit that fit his athletic frame perfectly, though few knew he preferred worn jeans and vintage band t-shirts when alone. A small scar above his right eyebrow from a childhood accident added character to his otherwise symmetrical features. His hands, strong but with long fingers that moved with surprising grace across keyboards, bore the calluses of someone who still built prototypes himself. Despite his wealth, Jackson's most noticeable feature was his genuine smile that transformed his serious demeanor whenever it appeared, revealing the dimple his mother had always loved. Growing up in a small town where his father worked 3 jobs after his mother's early death, Jackson learned the value of hard work and integrity. The pain of losing his mother at 12 had instilled in him a fierce protectiveness toward others facing unfair circumstances. His father's exhaustion and dignity had shaped his view of labor. No honest work was beneath anyone. When he received his first investment capital at 23, he'd promised himself his company would be different, a place where merit trumped politics and everyone had equal opportunity. This promise had become increasingly difficult to maintain as Pinnacle expanded to over 5,000 employees. The recent anonymous tip about discrimination against black employees in the Atlanta office had kept him awake for nights. The report specifically mentioned Zora Williams, whose performance reviews were stellar but who remained in the same position while less qualified colleagues advanced. The thought of his company becoming what he despised filled him with quiet determination. His disguise wasn't just about corporate intelligence, it was personal redemption, a chance to honor the values his father had instilled in him. The Atlanta office hummed with a complex ecosystem of personalities. Dominic Foster, the regional director, ran operations with military precision and old-school networking methods, golf courses and bourbon clubs where deals were sealed with handshakes. His protege, Wesley Grant, headed the department where Zora worked, his Harvard MBA displayed prominently on his wall alongside photos of himself with celebrities. Janelle Davis, the office manager whose efficiency kept everything running, noticed details others missed. Then there was Raymond Turner, the current head janitor, a Vietnam veteran with kind eyes who'd agreed to help Jackson with his undercover operation after hearing his genuine concern. And Zora Williams, brilliant, dedicated, with a reputation for solving problems others couldn't. Her file showed 5 years of exemplary service, 3 denied promotion requests, and degrees in both business and computer science with honors. The photo in her personnel file showed a woman with bright eyes and a reserved smile that suggested dignity despite disappointment. The 50-story glass tower housing Pinnacle's Atlanta operations gleamed like a beacon in the city skyline. Outside, the building projected success and innovation, but inside, the contrasts were stark. Upper management enjoyed ergonomic furniture and panoramic views, while support staff worked in cramped cubicles with fluorescent lighting that hummed incessantly. The executive floor smelled of expensive cologne and fresh flowers, while basement break rooms for maintenance staff had the lingering scent of microwave meals and industrial cleaner. At night, the building transformed, shadows lengthened, conversations echoed in empty hallways, and the cleaning staff moved through like ghosts, invisible to the few executives working late. The janitorial storage room where Jackson would change into his disguise was tucked away in the basement. Concrete walls painted institutional green decades ago, metal shelving stacked with supplies, and a small, cloudy mirror hanging askew. The room smelled of lemon cleaner and damp mops. It was here, among the overlooked spaces and people, that Jackson believed he would find the truth about his company's soul, and perhaps, though he wouldn't admit it yet, something he'd been missing in his life of privilege and power. "This isn't exactly what I expected," Jackson muttered, wincing as he pushed the heavy industrial vacuum across the carpet of the executive floor. The machine vibrated painfully against his palms, already reddened from hauling trash bags earlier. Raymond Turner walked alongside him, demonstrating proper technique with practiced ease despite being 20 years Jackson's senior. "Takes about a week for your hands to toughen up," Raymond said with a knowing smile. "Most new guys don't last that long." Jackson's first night as Jack Davis, new night janitor, had begun 3 hours ago at 10 p.m. with an abbreviated training session. He'd swapped his designer watch for a cheap digital timepiece, added subtle makeup to change his appearance, donned horn-rimmed glasses, and grown a short beard over the past 2 weeks. The blue uniform hung awkwardly on his frame, deliberately chosen one size too large. "Remember," Raymond advised, "be thorough but invisible. That's the job." He pointed toward the end of the hall. "Executive offices are last. They work late. Start with trash, then vacuum. Don't make eye contact unless spoken to. Most don't see us anyway." The casual dismissal in Raymond's tone troubled Jackson. Was this how his employees felt, invisible, beneath notice? He watched the night security guard walk past without acknowledging them, though Raymond had worked here for 12 years. "Desk 27 is different," Raymond said, nodding toward a distant cubicle where light still glowed at 11:30 p.m. "That's Ms. Williams. She always says thank you, remembers your name. Works later than the executives most nights." Jackson followed Raymond's gaze to where a woman sat focused on multiple monitors, her profile silhouetted against the screens. Even from a distance, her concentration was palpable. As they approached her section, Jackson saw stacks of organized folders, a nearly empty container of takeout, and a mug that read, "Excellence is not an act but a habit." When the vacuum's roar announced their presence, she looked up. Where other late workers had simply ignored them or frowned at the interruption, Zora Williams smiled. "Evening, Raymond," she said, voice warm but tired. Her eyes moved to Jackson with quiet curiosity. "Ms. Williams, this is Jack. Just started tonight." "Welcome to night shift purgatory, Jack," she said with unexpected humor. "I'm Zora." She had the kind of beauty that revealed itself gradually: intelligent eyes, high cheekbones, and a quiet dignity that transformed her fatigue into something noble. Jackson felt an unexpected tightness in his chest as he nodded awkwardly and managed a gruff, "Nice to meet you." As they moved away, Raymond whispered, "She's the hardest worker in this place. 5 years, 3 advanced degrees, and still stuck in that cubicle while I've seen 5 white guys with half her qualifications get promoted above her." Jackson felt shame burning beneath his disguise. Back in the janitorial closet at 2 a.m., Jackson stared at his reflection in the cloudy mirror. His hands throbbed from hours of physical labor he'd never appreciated before. The uniform smelled of cleaning chemicals and sweat, his sweat, earned honestly. The anonymity of Jack had revealed uncomfortable truths about Jackson in just one night. He'd watched how executives leaving late barely noticed the cleaning staff, walking past without acknowledgement. He'd felt the sting when a manager snapped at him for vacuuming too close to his office. He'd observed the casual disregard when someone knocked over a trash can and continued walking. Small moments, meaningful revelations. Most troubling was his growing certainty that Raymond's assessment of Zora's situation was accurate. After their brief introduction, he'd found reasons to vacuuming near her cubicle twice more, observing subtly. Her desk held accolades and certificates tucked discreetly into a drawer he glimpsed when she opened it, achievements hidden away rather than displayed. Her computer showed complex data analysis that he, as CEO, recognized as brilliant innovation. Yet here she was, working until midnight on projects that should belong to someone more senior. "You're quieter than most new guys," Raymond commented, interrupting his thoughts. "Usually they complain all night." "Just observing," Jackson replied. "Why do you stay? 12 years is a long time to be invisible." Raymond's weathered face crinkled with unexpected wisdom. "Who says I'm invisible? I see everything that happens in this building. I know everyone's secrets. The cleaning staff are the eyes and ears of any business, son. We're only invisible to those too blind to see value beyond titles." Jackson flinched at the unintentional rebuke. Was he one of those blind leaders? The question haunted him as he continued his shift, hyper-aware now of every interaction, every hierarchy revealed in the nighttime routines of his company. By 4 a.m., Jackson's muscles ached with unfamiliar labor. But something else had awakened, a determination to understand Zora Williams' story, to witness firsthand the obstacles she faced. His curiosity had shifted from professional to personal, a realization that both concerned and intrigued him. "Tomorrow night," Raymond said as they clocked out, "you'll clean the executive meeting room solo. That's when you'll really see how they leave things for the help to handle." "I'll be ready," Jackson promised, though uncertain if he was prepared for more uncomfortable truths about the company bearing his name. Family. Have you ever been in a situation where you were suddenly invisible to others because of your position or appearance? How did it make you feel, and what did it teach you about human nature? Drop your experiences in the comments. I respond to everyone because your stories matter just as much as the ones I tell. And if you're enjoying Jackson and Zora's journey, hit that like button to help more beautiful souls find our storytelling family. The following night, Jackson arrived early, his body still sore but his mind clearer about his mission. Raymond's knowing nod suggested he recognized a change in the new janitor's demeanor. "Executive floors all yours tonight. I'll handle the lower levels." Alone in the elevator, Jackson mentally prepared for his solo shift. When the doors opened on the executive floor, he immediately sensed something was wrong. Raised voices echoed from the conference room, Dominic Foster's distinctive baritone and another voice responding with controlled intensity. Zora's voice. "I've reviewed your application carefully, but we need someone with leadership qualities for the project manager position. Foster was saying as Jackson quietly positioned his cart within earshot. "With respect, sir, I've successfully led 3 project teams as an assistant. My performance metrics exceed departmental standards by 37%, Zora responded, her voice steady despite the tension Jackson could hear beneath it. "Numbers aren't everything, Williams. Wesley feels you lack executive presence. Perhaps if you were more assertive in meetings." "When I am assertive, sir, I'm labeled difficult. When I'm collaborative, I'm called indecisive." "That's perception management, part of leadership," Foster replied dismissively. "We're bringing in someone from outside with fresh perspectives. Perhaps in another year." "This is the 3rd time I've been passed over for advancement while watching externally hired candidates struggle with systems I designed," Zora said, her composure remarkable given the circumstances. "May I ask what specific qualifications the new hire possesses that I lack?" Foster's chair squeaked as he stood. "This conversation is becoming insubordinate, Williams. Your technical skills aren't in question, but Pinnacle needs leaders who fit our corporate culture. Wesley will email you the new hires' onboarding schedule. You'll be training them starting Monday." The injustice of the situation hit Jackson like physical pain. He'd heard enough corporate doublespeak to recognize the coded language masking discrimination. When Foster exited the conference room moments later, he barely glanced at Jack before barking, "Conference room needs cleaning," and striding toward the elevator. Jackson waited, watching through the half-open door as Zora remained seated, eyes closed, composing herself. Her quiet dignity in the face of such blatant unfairness moved something in him. When she finally stood and gathered her materials, her face showed no trace of the turmoil she must have felt. Only when she thought herself alone did she pause, shoulders dropping momentarily. Jackson entered, deliberately making noise with the cart to announce his presence. "Sorry to interrupt," he mumbled. Zora quickly straightened, professional mask back in place. "No problem. I was just leaving." She gathered the last of her presentation materials, then hesitated. "Jack, right? From last night." He nodded, surprised she remembered. "Do you believe people get what they deserve in life?" she asked unexpectedly. The question caught him off guard, forcing him to consider his answer carefully. "No," he finally said, honesty overriding his cover story. "Life isn't fair. But I believe in course corrections." She studied him curiously. "That's a unique perspective for someone who pushes a mop for a living," he finished with a wry smile. "I didn't mean." "I know you didn't," he assured her. "You're not like the others around here." Something in his tone must have revealed more than he intended, because her expression shifted to one of interest rather than dismissal. "Neither are you, Jack." As she walked away, Jackson realized 2 critical things. First, his company harbored exactly the discrimination he feared. Second, and more personally troubling, he was developing feelings for Zora Williams that had nothing to do with his original mission, feelings that would make his inevitable unmasking infinitely more complicated. Over the next 2 weeks, Jackson settled into his undercover role with growing proficiency. His hands developed calluses, his back adjusted to the long hours of physical labor, and he observed patterns invisible from his executive suite. He noticed how Wesley Grant took credit for Zora's ideas in morning meetings before she arrived, discovering this by overhearing executive conversations while emptying trash bins. He saw how Dominic Foster's golf buddies received preferential treatment for promotions. Most importantly, he witnessed Zora's unwavering excellence despite the obstacles placed before her. Their conversations had evolved from brief acknowledgments to midnight discussions during her late hours and his cleaning shifts. He learned she volunteered teaching coding to underprivileged kids on weekends. She mentioned caring for her grandmother who had raised her after her parents died in a car accident when she was 12, a shared loss that created an unexpected connection between them. Tonight, Jackson pushed his cart toward the executive break room where he'd spotted Zora making coffee despite the late hour. A stack of folders beside her suggested another long night ahead. "Let me guess," he said, entering with his mop. "Working on the Henderson presentation that Grant was supposed to handle?" She looked up, surprised. "How did you know about that?" Jackson froze, realizing his mistake. "I overheard him dumping it on you this morning while I was cleaning." "Right." She studied him with a curiosity that made him nervous. "You notice a lot, Jack." "Occupational hazard," he replied, focusing on mopping. "Nobody sees the cleaning guy, so I see everything." "I see you," she said simply, causing him to look up. Something in her expression made his heart rate accelerate. "You're different. Sometimes you use words that janitorial staff don't typically use. You watch people like you're studying them." The danger of discovery hung in the air between them. Before he could respond, she continued, "Before this job, what did you do?" He'd prepared for this question, but facing her direct gaze, his rehearsed answer felt hollow. "I managed things. A smaller operation." "You owned a business," she stated rather than asked. He nodded cautiously. "What happened?" "I trusted the wrong people," he said, finding truth easier than fabrication. "I stopped paying attention to what was happening on the ground floor. By the time I realized, the damage was done." She considered this. "That explains it. You have leadership eyes in a janitor's uniform." "Leadership eyes? You see systems, not just tasks. Most people in your position complain about the mess. You notice the patterns creating it." She smiled, warming her features in the harsh fluorescent light. "It's refreshing." The conversation shifted as she asked about his observations of the office dynamics. For 20 minutes, they talked, really talked, about workplace culture and invisible hierarchies. Jackson found himself forgetting his disguise, engaging with her brilliant insights about organizational behavior. Their discussion ended when her phone buzzed with a text. Checking it, her expression fell. "I have to go. Family emergency." "Your grandmother?" he asked with concern. "Yes." She fell. "I need to get to the hospital, but this presentation is due tomorrow morning and—" "Go," Jackson interrupted. "Family comes first." She hesitated, torn between responsibility and necessity. "The presentation will wait," he insisted. "It won't. This client is worth millions to Pinnacle. If I don't finish—" She didn't need to complete the sentence for him to understand the unspoken threat to her already precarious position. "Making a decision that would later prove pivotal," Jackson said. "Show me what needs to be done. I can help." Her surprise was evident. "You know PowerPoint?" He almost laughed at the understatement. "I've made a few presentations in my time." Desperation won over skepticism. She quickly walked him through the financial analysis she'd completed and the slides that needed finishing. "I just need the executive summary and conclusion slides formatted. The data's all there." "Go," he repeated firmly. "I'll handle this." After a moment's hesitation, she grabbed her purse. "Thank you, Jack. I won't forget this." She rushed out, leaving Jackson alone with her work. For the next 3 hours, Jackson applied skills he'd honed building a tech empire to completing Zora's presentation. He restrained himself from completely overhauling it, making only necessary improvements while maintaining her distinctive style. When he finished, it was a presentation worthy of the CEO himself, polished, persuasive, and professional. He saved the file and sent it to her email with a simple note, "Hope your grandmother is okay. Presentation complete. Jack." Back in his penthouse at dawn, Jackson sat on his balcony watching the sunrise, his mind in turmoil. What had begun as a corporate investigation had become deeply personal. He'd connected with Zora in a way he hadn't connected with anyone in years, authentically, without the barrier of his wealth and position. The simplicity of being just Jack had revealed how isolated he'd become as Jackson Reeves, CEO. People responded to his position, not his person. With Zora, he'd experienced something genuine, conversation without agenda, respect earned through actions rather than authority. More troubling was his growing admiration for her. Her intelligence, integrity, and resilience captivated him. She faced daily workplace discrimination with dignity, yet never lost her compassion. She'd remembered Raymond's birthday when executives couldn't recall his name after 12 years of service. She brought coffee for the security guard on cold mornings. Small kindnesses revealing character. Jackson rubbed his calloused palms, physical reminders of his deception. When the truth emerged, and it inevitably would, her sense of betrayal would be profound. The thought filled him with dread. Yet continuing the charade felt increasingly wrong. He was falling for Zora Williams, not as her CEO, but as a man seeing clearly for the first time in years. Beautiful family. Have you ever connected with someone while hiding part of yourself, only to realize the connection was too important to risk with deception? What did you do? Share your experiences in the comments below. If you're invested in Jackson and Zora's story, tap that like button and subscribe to signal you want to know what happens next. Your engagement fuels these storytelling journeys we take together. The next evening, Jackson arrived at work to find the office buzzing with unusual energy. Raymond intercepted him immediately. "Something big's happening," Raymond whispered. "Emergency executive meeting called for tomorrow morning. Word is, the CEO himself is making a surprise visit." Jackson concealed his shock. He'd made no such plans. "That's not all," Raymond continued. "Williams' presentation apparently blew the client away this morning. They doubled their contract on the spot." Before Jackson could respond, he spotted Zora walking purposefully toward them. Her expression contained something new, determination mixed with uncertainty. "Jack," she said, "can we talk privately?" Raymond's eyebrows raised as he made himself scarce. When they were alone, Zora said words that chilled Jackson's blood. "I know who you are." Jackson felt his pulse quicken as Zora's words hung between them. "I know who you are." "What do you mean?" he asked, voice carefully neutral. "Last night, after you helped with my presentation, I was curious." She pulled out her phone, showing him the screen. "I took a photo of the completed slides to review at the hospital. The document properties showed the last editor was J. Reeves, not Jack Davis." Her eyes held his steadily. "There's only one J. Reeves associated with Pinnacle Innovations." Jackson's mind raced through possible explanations, but the truth in her unwavering gaze made lies feel pointless. "When were you going to tell me?" she asked quietly. "Or was this some kind of elaborate test? Corporate espionage to see if the black woman complains about discrimination?" "No," he said firmly. "It wasn't that." "Then what exactly was the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company doing mopping floors and helping me with PowerPoint?" Her voice remained low but intense. "Do you have any idea how violated this makes me feel? I trusted you, told you things about my life, my grandmother." "I needed to see the truth," Jackson interrupted. "Anonymous reports claimed discrimination in this office. HR investigations found nothing. I had to know what was really happening. So I was an experiment." The hurt in her voice cut through him. "You were never—" He stopped as a security guard rounded the corner. "Everything okay here?" the guard asked, looking between them. "Fine," Zora replied with practiced professionalism. "Jack was just helping me locate a misplaced file." After the guard left, she whispered, "My office." 10 minutes, and walked away. When Jackson entered the small conference room Zora had commandeered, he found her standing by the window, silhouetted against the city lights. "You could have asked," she said without turning. "You're the CEO. You could have called me to your office any time." Would you have told me about Foster blocking your promotions? About Grant stealing your ideas? Would anyone have spoken honestly to the CEO about discrimination? She finally faced him. That doesn't justify deception. You're right, he admitted. It started as an investigation, but it became. He hesitated. What? She demanded. Something else, he finished, unable to articulate feelings he barely understood himself. Their conversation was interrupted by Raymond's urgent knock. Ms. Williams, Mr. Foster is looking for you. He seems angry. Thank you, Raymond, she responded, then turned to Jackson. This conversation isn't over. Meet me at Riverside Park, near the fountain, tomorrow at 7 a.m. You owe me the full truth, Jackson Reeves. The following morning brought new complications. Jackson arrived at the park to find Zora already waiting, the rising sun highlighting the tension in her posture. Thank you for coming, he began. I almost didn't, she replied. Then I realized you'd probably just show up as the janitor again. The bitter humor failed to mask her hurt. I deserve that, he acknowledged. I came to apologize and explain. Explain quickly. I have a meeting at 8:30. The meeting's been cancelled, he said. All meetings today have been. Her eyes narrowed. Why? Because I've called for a company-wide audit of promotion practices, effective immediately. He pulled out his phone, showing her the email drafted but not yet sent. Before I send this, I need your input. My input? Now you want my opinion. I've always valued your opinion, Zora. Even before I knew how valuable it was. He held her gaze. What I did was wrong, approaching this undercover instead of directly. But what I discovered was worse. Systematic discrimination exists in my company, and I was blind to it until I witnessed it firsthand. She studied him for a long moment. The rumors about the CEO visiting today? Started by my assistant to explain my absence from headquarters. No one knows I've been here all along. And no one knows you helped with my presentation. Only you and I know that, he confirmed. She paced, processing. So what happens now? You send that email, conduct your audit, maybe fire Foster and Grant, then return to your penthouse while I continue in my cubicle. Her question revealed the heart of the problem, the vast inequity between their worlds that no single action could bridge. I want to offer you a position, he began cautiously. Don't, she cut him off. Don't offer me anything based on guilt or attraction or whatever this is. If I advance, it will be because I've earned it. Her integrity humbled him. What do you want, Zora? Justice, she answered simply. Not just for me, but for Raymond, for Janelle, for everyone treated as invisible. Before he could respond, his phone rang, his executive assistant. The call was brief but alarming. We have a problem, he told Zora after hanging up. Someone leaked information about the audit. Foster's called an emergency board meeting, claiming I've abandoned my duties and am mentally unfit to lead the company. He can't do that, she protested. He's trying. And he has allies on the board. Jackson ran a hand through his hair. I need to return to headquarters immediately. So our conversation is over? No, he said firmly. It's just beginning. Come with me. To headquarters? As what? As yourself, the most qualified person to explain exactly what's happening in the Atlanta office. She hesitated. If I do this, I'm not your ally or your employee. I'm an independent witness speaking my truth. I won't soft-pedal what I've experienced. I wouldn't expect you to, he said. That's exactly why I need you there. Hours later, Zora found herself in Pinnacle's New York headquarters, waiting outside the boardroom where Jackson was already facing the directors. The whispers among executives suggested the meeting was contentious. Foster had arrived with a prepared statement and documentation claiming Jackson's extended absence and erratic behavior warranted temporary leadership change. What Foster didn't know was that Jackson had recorded their conversation with Zora about her denied promotion. Inside the boardroom, Jackson was fighting not just for his company but for a vision of it he'd lost sight of until becoming Jack the janitor. The door opened, and his assistant beckoned Zora inside. 20 pairs of eyes turned to her as she entered. Foster's face registered shock, then calculated dismissal. "Ms. Williams," he said smoothly, "this is a board matter. Your presence isn't required." "Actually," Jackson countered, "Ms. Williams is essential to understanding what's happening in Atlanta. She's here at my specific request." Foster's confident smile faltered. "With all due respect, one disgruntled employee's complaints hardly justify." "I'm not here to complain," Zora interrupted, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I'm here to present evidence of systematic discrimination that violates both company policy and federal law." She placed a flash drive on the table. "This contains 5 years of documented incidents, performance reviews, and statistical analysis of promotion patterns by race and gender in the Atlanta office." The atmosphere in the room shifted perceptibly. "Ms. Williams prepared this documentation independently," Jackson explained. "I discovered it during my time in Atlanta, which Mr. Foster has characterized as abandonment of duties." Foster's face darkened. "You can't seriously be taking the word of a brilliant executive with 3 advanced degrees who's been repeatedly overlooked for promotion despite exemplary performance?" Jackson finished. "Yes, I am. And so is the board." The oldest board member, Dr. Eleanor Richards, spoke up. "I think we should review Ms. Williams' evidence before continuing this discussion about leadership." As the boardroom atmosphere tensed with potential consequences, Zora caught Jackson's eye. In that moment, professional concerns gave way to personal reality. Despite everything, there was an undeniable connection between them, one complicated by power dynamics, deception, and now, direct confrontation with the company's leadership. Jackson had risked his position by going undercover. Now Zora was risking her career by standing against Foster. The realization that they'd both chosen truth over security created a profound shift between them. Foster, sensing the changing tide, played his final card. "Mr. Reeves has a personal relationship with Ms. Williams that compromises his judgment," he announced. "Their involvement creates a conflict of interest that disqualifies both their testimonies." The accusation hung in the air as board members exchanged glances. "That's absurd," Jackson responded, but the seed of doubt had been planted. "Is it?" Foster pressed. "Multiple employees have witnessed your interactions. We have security footage of private meetings, late-night conversations. Your assistant confirms you've mentioned Ms. Williams repeatedly in recent weeks." Zora felt the ground shifting beneath her. Everything she'd worked for was being reframed as inappropriate fraternization. The data, the documentation, all could be dismissed if the board believed Foster's implications. "The nature of my relationship with Ms. Williams is built on professional respect," Jackson stated firmly. "Any suggestion otherwise is a transparent attempt to discredit evidence of Mr. Foster's misconduct." But Zora saw uncertainty in the board members' expressions. Foster had leveraged corporate politics masterfully, creating doubt where facts should prevail. If Jackson denied any personal feelings too strongly, he'd seem dishonest. If he acknowledged them, he'd confirm Foster's accusations. As she watched Jackson navigate this impossible position, Zora recognized the vulnerability behind his powerful facade. He truly cared about his company's integrity, about justice, and perhaps about her. That realization both comforted and terrified her. "Perhaps," Dr. Richards suggested, breaking the tense silence, "we should hear Ms. Williams' testimony directly, without interpretation from either Mr. Reeves or Mr. Foster." The board chairman nodded agreement. Ms. Williams, please share your experience with this board, in your own words. Zora took a deep breath, aware this moment would define her professional future. As she prepared to speak, Foster's phone buzzed loudly. Checking it, his face drained of color. Before Ms. Williams begins, he interrupted, there's something the board should know about Jackson Reeves that will change everything you think you know about our CEO. The boardroom fell silent as Foster held up his phone triumphantly. I've just received confirmation of what I suspected, he announced. For the past month, Jackson Reeves hasn't been absent from the Atlanta office at all. He's been present, disguised as a janitor named Jack Davis. Murmurs rippled through the room as board members exchanged shocked glances. Foster continued, playing security footage on the main screen showing Jackson in his janitor's uniform. Our CEO has been deliberately deceiving his own employees, spying on them under false pretenses. This isn't leadership, it's a violation of trust and potentially illegal surveillance. Foster's voice carried practiced outrage. Is this the behavior of a stable executive? Jackson remained remarkably calm. Yes, I went undercover in our Atlanta office. I don't deny it. Why not simply announce an inspection? Dr. Richards asked. Because people behave differently when they know they're being watched, Jackson replied. I needed to see the unfiltered truth about claims of discrimination that HR investigations couldn't substantiate. Foster scoffed. How convenient that your investigation led you straight to Ms. Williams. This was never about corporate oversight. It was about pursuing a personal interest while neglecting your actual responsibilities. Jackson's jaw tightened, but before he could respond, Zora stepped forward. Mr. Foster misunderstands something fundamental, she said, her voice steady despite the tension crackling through the room. When someone with power disguises themselves as powerless, they don't gain advantage, they gain perspective. All eyes turned to her as she continued. For the first time, Mr. Reeves experienced what many of us live with daily, being overlooked, underestimated, invisible. He witnessed discrimination not as an abstract report on his desk, but as a human reality. She turned to Jackson, their eyes meeting with an intensity that transcended the professional conflict surrounding them. I was angry about the deception. I still am. But I recognize the courage it took to step down from that tower and walk in our shoes. The room fell silent as the authenticity of her words registered. Even Foster seemed momentarily at a loss. Dr. Richards broke the silence. Mr. Reeves, what did you discover during your unconventional research? Jackson stood, nodding gratefully to Zora before addressing the board. I discovered that Pinnacle's Atlanta office operates on relationships rather than merit. I watched brilliant work go unrecognized while mediocrity with the right connections was rewarded. I saw employees like Ms. Williams produce exceptional results only to have others claim credit. He played the recording of Foster denying Zora's promotion, the executive's coded language about cultural fit, now transparent in its prejudice. Most disturbingly, Jackson continued, I discovered that my own ignorance enabled this system. By distancing myself from day-to-day operations, I created space for discrimination to flourish under polished quarterly reports. Foster attempted to interject, but the board chairman silenced him with a raised hand. What do you propose we do? The chairman asked Jackson. First, conduct a comprehensive audit of promotion practices across all offices, led by an independent third party. Second, restructure leadership in the Atlanta office. Jackson's gaze hardened as he looked at Foster. Third, create a council of employees from all levels to establish new accountability measures. The chairman nodded thoughtfully. And Ms. Williams' role in this? Jackson turned to Zora. That's entirely her decision. The board deliberated briefly before the chairman announced, We'll proceed with Mr. Reeves' recommendations, starting with an immediate leadership change in Atlanta. Mr. Foster, please wait outside while we discuss the terms of your transition. Foster's face contorted with disbelief. "You're choosing to believe this theatrical performance over my 15 years of service? This is accountability," the chairman interrupted firmly. "Please step outside." After Foster left, Dr. Richards addressed Zora. "Ms. Williams, your insights would be valuable in restructuring the Atlanta office. Would you consider a leadership position in that effort?" Zora hesitated, glancing at Jackson. "I'd need assurance that any position offered reflects my qualifications, not recent events." "Absolutely," the chairman agreed. "Your credentials and performance record speak for themselves." As the meeting concluded, Jackson and Zora found themselves alone in a quiet corner of the executive floor. The emotional weight of the confrontation hung between them. "I never meant to hurt you," he said softly. "What began as an investigation became something I never expected." "A convenient explanation," she replied, but without the anger that had fueled her earlier. "The billionaire CEO falls for the struggling employee. It's a cliché, Jackson." "Is that what you think happened?" "I think you discovered something authentic in pretending to be someone else. The question is whether that authenticity survives now that you're back in your tower." Her eyes searched his. "The man I connected with was Jack Davis, not Jackson Reeves." "They're the same person," he insisted. "The title, the wealth, those things aren't me. What you saw when I was Jack, that's always been the real me, just hidden beneath expectations and isolation." She considered this. "Then prove it. Not with grand gestures or executive decisions. Prove it by being the man I met mopping floors at midnight, the one who saw people's worth beyond their titles." "I will," he promised. "Starting with Pinnacle, but not ending there." "And us?" she asked, the question hanging vulnerable between them. "That depends on whether you can forgive the deception and see the truth behind it." He paused. "I'm falling in love with you, Zora. Not as your CEO, not as your colleague, but as a man who recognizes something extraordinary in you." Her expression softened. "I need time. The power imbalance between us is real, regardless of your intentions." "I understand." He hesitated before adding, "Whatever you decide about us personally, the position in Atlanta is yours if you want it. You've earned it many times over." 6 months transformed Pinnacle Innovations. The independent audit revealed systemic issues beyond Atlanta, leading to company-wide reforms. Jackson instituted transparent promotion practices, diverse hiring committees, and regular, undercover experiences for executives to work alongside entry-level employees. Zora accepted the position of regional director in Atlanta, restructuring the office culture from the ground up. Raymond Turner was promoted to facilities management supervisor with a substantial raise. The janitor's break room was renovated to match executive standards. Jackson maintained his distance professionally from Zora, respecting her need for autonomy. Their interactions remained cordial but formal during video conferences and quarterly reviews. He found himself missing their midnight conversations, the connection that had awakened him to a life beyond boardrooms and balance sheets. Then, on a rainy Tuesday evening in New York, Jackson exited a community center where he'd been teaching entrepreneurship to at-risk youth, another change inspired by his time as Jack. He spotted Zora standing under an umbrella across the street. "I was in New York for a conference," she explained as he approached. "Your assistant told me I might find you here." "I'm glad you did," he said simply. "I've been thinking about what you said about authenticity," she continued. "About Jack and Jackson being the same person. I wanted to see for myself." "And?" he asked, heart racing. "I've watched you these past months. The changes at Pinnacle aren't window dressing, they're structural. You've created real opportunity, not just the appearance of it." She paused. "The man teaching those kids tonight wasn't wearing a costume. He was the same man who helped me with a PowerPoint presentation when my grandmother needed me." Jackson noticed she'd stepped closer, close enough that they now shared her umbrella. "Does this mean—" "It means I'm ready to explore what might exist between Zora Williams and Jackson Reeves," she interrupted with a smile. "Not CEO and employee, just two people who see each other clearly." "I'd like that," he said, returning her smile. "There's one condition," she added seriously. "No more disguises. Just truth between us, however complicated." "I promise," he replied, his hand finding hers beneath the umbrella as rain drummed softly above them. "Only truth from now on." 2 years later, Jackson stood at the window of his Manhattan penthouse, watching the sunrise paint the skyline gold. The view was familiar, but the man observing it had fundamentally changed. No longer isolated by success, he'd learned to balance power with perspective, authority with empathy. The calluses from his nights as a janitor had long faded, but the lessons remained embedded in his leadership philosophy and personal values. Behind him, soft footsteps approached. Zora's reflection appeared beside his in the window, her silk robe draped elegantly over her growing belly. She wrapped her arms around him from behind, her wedding ring catching the morning light. "The twins are restless this morning," she murmured, guiding his hand to feel the movement beneath her skin. "They're going to be as stubborn as their father." Jackson smiled, marveling at the miracle of their created family. "And as brilliant as their mother." Their path to this moment hadn't been simple. After that rainy evening in New York, they dated for 6 months, carefully navigating the complexity of their professional relationship. Zora had insisted on maintaining her separate career path, eventually accepting a position as Chief Innovation Officer at Pinnacle's headquarters, a role she'd earned through her transformative work in Atlanta. When Jackson proposed, he'd done so not with extravagance but with meaning, presenting the ring in the janitor's closet where they'd first truly connected. "I was thinking about Raymond this morning," Zora said, moving to sit on the window seat. "Did you see the photos from his retirement party?" Jackson nodded, remembering the celebration for the man who'd unwittingly changed the course of their lives. Raymond had retired as Director of Facilities Management after implementing training programs that had created promotion pathways for maintenance staff across all Pinnacle offices. "He told me something I can't stop thinking about," Jackson said. "He said he always knew Jack was someone important disguised as someone invisible. When I asked how he knew, he just said, 'Because you saw what everyone else missed, the humanity in invisible work.'" Zora's eyes softened. "That's what changed you, isn't it? Not falling in love with me, but seeing value where others didn't." "Both changed me," he admitted. "But yes, recognizing worth beyond title or position, that was the beginning of everything." Beautiful souls, the story of Jackson and Zora carries lessons that extend far beyond a romantic narrative. It reminds us that true character is revealed not when we're at our most powerful, but when we think no one of consequence is watching. The way we treat those we perceive as having less status or influence defines us more accurately than how we behave toward those we wish to impress. Their journey teaches us that authentic connection requires vulnerability and truth. Jackson couldn't find love as a powerful CEO because people responded to his position, not his person. Only when stripped of status did he experience the genuine connection he craved. Similarly, Zora's integrity shone not in moments of recognition, but in daily excellence despite being overlooked. Perhaps most importantly, their story reminds us that systemic change begins with individual awareness. Jackson needed to experience discrimination personally before fully committing to eradicating it. His transformation from distant executive to engaged leader demonstrates how proximity to others' struggles creates the empathy necessary for meaningful change. "I see you nodding, family. Many of you have experienced being underestimated or overlooked because of how others perceive you. Some of you know what it's like to wear a mask at work, hiding your true self to fit expectations. Others have felt the sting of watching less qualified people advance while your contributions go unrecognized. Some of you have been Jackson, privileged in ways you didn't fully recognize until something opened your eyes to others' experiences. Maybe you've been in positions of authority where you had the chance to maintain the status quo or challenge it, knowing the latter would bring resistance. More of you have been Zora, exceptional yet undervalued, navigating systems that weren't designed with you in mind, maintaining dignity despite daily indignities. You've worked twice as hard for half the recognition, yet continued bringing your best self to environments that didn't deserve it. A few of you have been Raymond, seeing everything, understanding the unspoken hierarchies, yet finding purpose in work others dismiss. You notice what others miss because you've learned to observe from the margins. Wherever you see yourself in this story, know that your experiences matter. Your perspective is uniquely valuable because of what you've overcome, not despite it. My beautiful family, if this story touched your heart, please take a moment to share it with someone who needs its message. Every like, comment, and share extends these lessons to others who might be struggling to find authenticity in their relationships or courage in their workplaces. I want to hear your stories too. Have you ever discovered something precious when you looked beyond appearances? Have you found connection in unexpected places? Have you been the catalyst for change in your environment? Your experiences create a tapestry of wisdom when shared with our storytelling community. Before we part, remember that like Jackson and Zora's twins, hope and possibility are always being born from authentic connection. The courage to see others clearly and allow yourself to be truly seen creates ripples that extend far beyond your immediate circumstances. Until our next story, beautiful souls, remember that the most important transformations often begin with a simple decision to look deeper, to question comfortable assumptions, and to recognize the humanity in every person you encounter. That recognition, seeing the value in what others dismiss, is where love, justice, and meaningful change begin.